Welcome, everyone. My name is Jennifer Koip, and I am the Vice President of Urban Initiatives with the Association of Public and Land Grant Universities, or APLU, as well as the Executive Director of the Coalition of Urban Serving Universities, which is the host of this particular webinar and this webinar series. And we welcome you to this particular edition of the webinar series. A while back, when I first started this role, about a year and a half ago, I had the pleasure of running into Presidents United to Solve Hunger, or PUSH, which is a coalition or consortium within the Auburn Hunger Solution Institute. And given the focus of USU on that's president-led, so our members of record are presidents and chancellors, we thought this was very interesting, and the fact that lots of basic needs issues are still very relevant across higher education writ large. But there are particularly sort of different flavors of how we address that in urban settings. So I became good friends and colleagues with Dr. Grace Kaschak, and we've talked regularly and thought it would be a great way for us to highlight what they have learned about institutional solutions to the issue of food insecurity and hunger, and its relationship to student success and institutional success, to share them with you with a particular lens toward what that looks like in an urban setting, since context does matter so much to how we consider and address our challenges and seize our opportunities. So the PUSH is, again, a consortium of universities within the Hunger Solutions Institute. And the Hunger Solutions Institute really is working with community, state, and global partners to address the issue of hunger, malnutrition, food insecurity, and they do so through multiple partnerships, which really also resonates with USU institutions who are constantly working with community partners, state partners, and other higher education institutions and organizations in the metropolitan area. So I think their approach, their mission, and being particularly PUSH, being leader-led, is really important to the vision, mission, and values of the Coalition of Urban Serving Universities. So without further ado, I again welcome you to this webinar edition, and I want to turn it over to Dr. Grace Kaschak.
It might help if I unmute myself first. I act like it's my first day on Zoom every time. I don't know if you guys also have the unique pleasure of every time you need to use Zoom, it decides it wants to update 5 minutes before your meeting. So anyways, thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time. As Jennifer mentioned, in my role at the Hunger Solutions Institute, I oversee sort of 3 programs. So one is PUSH that she talked about, Presidents United to Solve Hunger, and I'll talk some about that later. And then I also oversee Hunger-Free Higher Ed, which I'm going to talk in depth about today. And then I also oversee Universities Fighting World Hunger. So Hunger-Free Higher Ed is what I'm going to talk most about today. I think that will be a really helpful way for you to get a grasp of some of the work that we've been doing with institutions to improve their basic needs supports on their campuses. So to briefly go over the Hunger-Free Higher Ed process, I do think it's important to kind of give a little background. So we know that college and universities have engaged in a lot of different responses to campus food insecurity and student food insecurity. So those have included food pantries, meal swipe programs, SNAP outreach to help students get signed up for SNAP, education programs, and more. However, evidence has shown that staff often feel unsupported in doing this work and sometimes end up overseeing a pantry as part of like a much larger role. So maybe the food pantry is, 5 to 10% of their daily job. So we also know that staff dedicated to student food insecurity initiatives have also recognized the need for data collection, right? I know that you often are probably telling staff members when they want to do something like, what does the data say? What data do you have to support this? How do we know that this is going on? But oftentimes these staff may lack the time to do this data collection. They may lack the necessary training or anything thing like that in order to do data collection. So considering those paths to effectively address needs of food insecure students, we really need to consider both the student and institutional perspectives. In 2019, Healthy Eating Research released a brief recognizing a widely implemented and studied intervention engaging organizational leaders in a process of guided self-assessment, action planning, and technical assistance to support engagement, and facilitation of change. Recognizing that need for a systematic approach within higher education institutions, we, HSI, developed this Hunger-Free Higher Ed process, which is a guided, iterative process to address college student food insecurity. And as a whole, aims to foster collaboration, lead innovative research, and promote data-informed efforts to elevate systemic solutions for college student food insecurity. So it's a 6-step process. These are the 6 steps, and I'm going to go through them one by one. So in the first step, I want to talk some about the outcomes. So we started off Hunger-Free Higher Ed with 10 4-year universities across the state of Alabama. We now have expanded to 30 2- and 4-year colleges and universities. We also encourage all of our members within Hunger-Free Higher Ed to engage in the Alabama Campus Coalition for Basic Needs, which meets semesterly with in-person meetings or a conference in the fall. And that is sort of the networking arm of Hunger-Free Higher Ed. And then I also host monthly webinars for professional development within Hunger-Free Higher Ed. So this is sort of our step 1 of engaging, right? We want you to engage a coalition on your own campus so that your campus is talking about what's happening as far as food insecurity, what initiatives are happening. You guys are all aware of the different things going on. And then also that you're engaging in the process with us. You're engaging with other people doing the work across the state. And then in the second step, in assess, we have seen that urban campuses have had more of a campus food insecurity response. Later, you're going to hear from 2 of our urban campuses, specifically Debbie from UAB and Dr. Mitchell from USA, which will be really great. But so 23 of our partnering campuses so far have assessed the prevalence of food insecurity on their campus, and then 21 have completed the CFAST. The CFAST is it's short for the Campus Food Aid Self-Assessment Tool, and that assesses resources, practices, and policies. Specifically, there's a couple criteria within there. So it looks at student services and supports, involvement, advocacy, awareness and culture, education and training opportunities, and then finally, research, scholarship, and creative work. So it's assessing the campus response within 6 different areas. And then statewide rates of food insecurity within Alabama have a pretty large range. So anywhere from 21 to 72%, but the majority of scores fall between that 40 to almost 60%. And then according to the CFAST, it's interesting because as we know, not all colleges, not all universities are the same. We're each responding in different ways, each excelling in different areas, but a lot of our campuses within Alabama show the need for improvement in education and training associated with food insecurity. And so that's education and training for both students and staff and faculty. So being able to recognize what is food insecurity, how do I as a student know that I might be food insecure and need this help, as well as how do staff and faculty maybe recognize food insecurity in other students to be able to refer those students to needed supports. And then our step 3, which is planning, that we have 14, so about half of our campuses so far have completed action plans. So that means they have taken all this data that we have done, so the prevalence and the CFAST, and we provide them with these really in-depth reports that provide a lot of data about, kind of here's where you are, here's best practice, but here are these next best steps that you can take. And then they use those reports to create action plans. Those action plans are based on SMART goals, which I'm sure you are all familiar with, right? So we want those goals to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And then within each goal, we also ensure that the Campus Coalition outlines the objectives, the specific activities, who is responsible for those. A lot of times when it's a coalition, we don't want it to just all fall on one person. So using each person in that coalition for the skills that they excel in or the area that they represent. And then we also get them to identify the resources available as well as resources needed to complete those tasks and a timeline for implementation. So many action plans that we have seen thus far included strategies to increase awareness of food insecurity resources, as well as educate faculty and staff on food insecurity. So you'll notice that's well in line with what we noticed from the CFAS data, right? Is that a lot of our campuses needed to educate faculty and staff on what food insecurity is and how to know that that's an issue. And then I do think it's really interesting. I'm sure you have all heard your students say, oh, I had no idea we did that. Oh, I had no idea our campus had that. And so that can be really frustrating when you're offering all these really amazing resources for your students, but they simply don't know that they exist. Or maybe they don't know how to access them. They think it's only for certain students. I think some of our campuses sometimes will say like, oh, well, our graduate students had no idea that they also qualified for these services that our undergraduate students, have available to them. So that's something that we've seen a lot of our campuses really focus on, is increasing that awareness of the already existing resources. And then other commonalities of the action plans have included improving the physical space of an existing food pantry. So maybe that means like adding on additional space, maybe buying new or nicer shelves, maybe buying new technology so that students could be able to like swipe into their food pantry rather than having to have a physical like staff person there and available, or buying technology for like pantry software. We also saw a lot of people purchasing, refrigerators, freezers, to simply be able to offer a wider variety of types of food instead of just shelf-stable items. And then a lot of the outcomes in that planning period were to hire additional staff. So like I mentioned at the very beginning, a lot of our campuses, have someone who it's part of their job to do the food pantry. So hiring maybe even a graduate assistant where that's their full-time job. That's, all they do is oversee the food pantry, so that you have one person dedicated to doing that. Okay. In the implementation phase, so in step 4, this is kind of highlights of what our institutions have done so far. So I think this is really exciting to see in this way. So we saw 4 institutions hired an additional staff member to oversee their pantries, like I talked about. Additional staff assisted with operating the food pantry during open hours. So that often meant that the food pantry was able to be open more hours, which is really great. Overseeing volunteers. So then that way there was one person there to maintain systems and processes and things of that nature. And then staff who were able to help with procuring donations as well. So I don't know if people often recognize how much work that is to coordinate back and forth with people who want to donate. It's always great to have donations, but there is a lot of times a lot of effort and coordination in working those things out. So 4 institutions improved the physical space of their pantry by purchasing additional food items or needed equipment, like I talked about. Some of the cool things that we've seen are people doing like locker pickup systems. So that way those can be available after hours or on the weekends. I know we're seeing more and more almost like an Amazon locker pickup kind of system where you enter in a code and you're able to pick up after hours. And so that's really, really an amazing thing to offer students who maybe are experiencing sort of an emergency need, right? But it's after hours or the weekends or something like that. And then we also had 5 institutions work to increase the awareness of food insecurity resources on their campus and reduce the stigma associated with food insecurity, which has continued to be a big thing in the literature that students report, not using resources because of the stigma associated with them. And so they were able to do this through marketing, social media, communication plans, development of a designated web page, or other ways. And then 7 universities, including 5 of our 2-year colleges, which I think is really great, developed a partnership with a local food bank to receive regular donations from their campus pantry. So prior to this, they were simply working to stock their pantry based on donations, only donations. So that meant, you were really, whatever you got that month was whatever you got that month. So that has been really, really great for those institutions to have that reliable access to food. And then one university who we'll get to hear from instituted a weekly shuttle from campus to grocery stores for both graduate and undergraduate students. And I'm going to let Debbie talk a little bit more about that later, so I won't get into it. And then some of our evaluate outcomes. So in the evaluate phase, campuses will essentially redo the assessments that they did in phase 2, in the assess phase. So they will do prevalence and then the CFAST again to basically see how we've made improvement in these years. So that will that data collection will happen every 6 years. That's our goal in order to be in line with 6-year for our 4 years at least, to be in line with 6-year graduation rates, retention and completion. So that's something that we are gearing up to start right now. And then we will use that evaluation data to identify best practices, to be able to say, like, we know that this led to this. And this is, something that we know we'll be able to implement on other campuses as well. So kind of multiplying those best practices. And then step 6 is celebrating. So just being proud of the work that our campuses are doing. 13 of our partnering colleges and universities received grant funding as part of Hunger-Free Higher Ed. There is no cost associated with institutions participating in Hunger-Free Higher Ed with us. We apply for like foundation grants, and our goal is to try to give what we would refer to as like a mini grant, which is really a sub-award to every participating college and university with us. That is what we would like to see. I think we all in education know what an unfunded mandate feels like, and it doesn't feel that great. So, we know that in working with us, these campuses are obviously really passionate about wanting to create change on their campus. And we know that that oftentimes comes with funding, right? Like buying new refrigerators, hiring new staff, there are costs associated with those things. And we want to be able to provide when we can. So that's something that we're still really passionate about seeking out and being able to offer these institutions. So far 13 have done that. Our 4-year colleges received $25,000, and then 2 years received $10,000. And then they use those monies to support the implementation of their action plan, right? Just like I said, buying things costs money, hiring additional staff costs money. And then we continue to highlight the amazing things that our partnering campuses are doing through promotional materials. When we go to conferences, we are talking about how great these schools are. We are currently in the process of getting a couple different things published about the great work that we're doing. So we're really excited and enjoy bragging on all of our great partners across the state. So like I mentioned, we currently have a combination of 30 universities within the state of Alabama. That's 13 4 years and 17 2 years. All but one of those are public institutions. We are also starting to work in Kentucky. We are really lucky that a former graduate student of ours is now faculty in Kentucky and has been a great advocate for us. And so we're continuing to hope to expand in other states. We, kind of our goal here is to sort of like perfect what we're doing, right? We want to be able to say, here's what we found out are the best practices, and here's how we know now that we can expand this into other states and continue this great work. So with that, I am going to now turn it over to Debbie Morgette, who is the Assistant Director of Student Assistance and Support within Student Affairs at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, who is a USU institution.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sarah Grace, for that introduction. I'm so happy to be here and to share with you what UAB is doing to address food insecurity. Just like Sarah Grace said, that we were or are a participating member of ACCBN, and through our participation, we received a $25,000 grant, and we were tasked with how to address or support our existing programs to increase food security on our campus. And one of the things that we were discussing before we received the grant is how important it was for our students to have access to affordable grocery stores. And so we came back when we received the grant, and we decided that we were going to start a transportation service for our students. And so we partnered with our transportation services, and they came up with a route. And we started off the initiative with 2 buses, and those were in service for the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And the program is highly successful. The buses were completely filled, and so we knew that it was a success. And we collected data because we wanted to make sure that we were able to reach out to the students who rode the bus to see what they thought about the service. And it's always a positive outcome when we do those surveys. Like I said, access to grocery stores can be a big barrier. And if you, of course, are not getting the food that you deserve, you can't study, you can't retain, you can't focus. And so that's the program that we started. And as you can see that one 35 passenger bus cost us a little bit, $8,500, and then 2 35 passenger buses cost about 17,000. And so now currently we dropped from 2 buses to 1 bus, and we service that on Saturdays. And in 2024, we provided 1,500 or so rides to 4 grocery stores. 3 of those grocery stores are highly international based, food based, and then the other one is Walmart. And so, like I said, we were very pleased, and right now it's all about sustainability of the program, because once you start a program like this, you want to be able to sustain it. And so now we are partnering with other departments on our campus that contribute to the fee of the buses and the bus drivers. Another thing that we've had since 2012, actually, is a food pantry on our campus. And just a little bit of history, my office is called Student Assistance and Support. And we started a food pantry based on the needs of our students that we were assisting. We hired a case manager in 2012, and she came to me and she said, "Debbie, we need some food in this office for students who are coming here and saying that they're food insecure. And I said, absolutely. So we started with a cardboard box in our office with some canned food, but it grew by word of mouth, and we were so happy. And then in 2017, the powers that be on our campus said, you know, we need a standalone food pantry, and Blazer Kitchen was established. And then our food pantry in our office merged with the larger Blazer Kitchen. So there are two locations on our office, a standalone location, and then a little hub, if you will, in our office. And that office is it's an office space and a conference space that we just made into what we call Blazer Kitchen. And we partner with the Community Food Bank of Central Alabama. And I highly encourage anyone to partner with their food bank, because that is the major food source for both locations. And as you know, or maybe you don't, but the cost sharing of fees is very low, and the items are no more than 16 cents per pound for most items. So you can't beat that. And that's why I encourage anyone who's starting a food pantry to partner with their community food bank. Of course, we sustain our food pantries with donation drives of all sorts. And just like Sarah Grace was saying, that coordination of donation drives it's very exhausting at times, because you're continually trying to strategically plan donation drives, and you do not want to oversaturate your donation drives, because if you do one after another one, it's not going to be as significant. And so I manage both or all three things that I'm going to talk about today: is Blazer Kitchen, the Blazer Market Route, and the third thing I will talk to you about in a moment. So that's my responsibility. And you know, I'm talking with student organizations, departments, offices, athletics for their events, and of course, individuals, our alumni, and then off campus as well. I talk to specific groups off campus for help with our Blazer Kitchen. And since 2017, as you can see, we've provided 885,000 meals. And then the total pounds of food is over 1 million. So we're very proud of Blazer Kitchen. We're continually trying to improve. The standalone Blazer Kitchen has many freezers and refrigerators, and they even have halal chicken that is quite important to some of our student populations. So once again, we're always surveying our students. What can we do to improve Blazer Kitchen? What kinds of food or other supplies would you like to see in Blazer Kitchen? And so we provide not only non-perishable and perishable, but also school supplies and pet food and baby food, diapers, wipes, anything that you can imagine, kitchen supplies, kitchen cleaning supplies, all of it. Anything that you can imagine a student or yourself need, that's what we do. Now, the standalone, bigger Blazer Kitchen, main Blazer Kitchen, provides services to students, employees, and certain patient populations. So that's quite important to know. And then we serve only students. And then the third thing that we want to address or increase food security is, so many of our students need additional funds because they're financially insecure. So we have several emergency grants that we promote, and I manage this program as well. We have a Student Affairs Emergency Grant. We have a Veteran Relief Fund. We have another scholarship fund that's funded by a family. And the Student Affairs Emergency Grant, a student can, for undergraduate students, they can get up to $500. And then the Veteran Relief Fund also is up to $500 for student veterans and dependents. And that's quite important. And then the family funded scholarship any student, undergrad or grad, can get up to $1,000 for basic needs for any kind of an emergency that they had. And a lot of the needs that students apply for are food-based, that they need extra money for food, even though there's Blazer Kitchen on our campus. Remember, Blazer Kitchen is just supplemental. It's not for all your food needs, although some students, that is all their food needs. And so those emergency grants are quite important.
I do just want to reiterate how amazing UAB has been as a partner and to learn from. I think too, especially as an urban campus, seeing the way that they really learn from their students and listen to their students, you know, having those 2 locations of Blazer Kitchen, I think is such a big deal in a campus that's spread out, right? Like, you know, you recognize that students are going to have different needs. I think getting them to and from the grocery store when you are in downtown Birmingham is quite a feat. So I just
Yes.
really appreciate the work
Yes.
that you have done, Debbie. So thank you
Yes.
so
Well,
much.
thank you. And one more thing I want to add.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I did not add it on the slides, but we also have what we call it the Swipe Twice program, and that's where folks can donate a meal from their meal plan or buy a meal voucher. And then like I said, I provide case management services for students who can benefit from additional resources. They can come in additionally and get meal vouchers for our campus dining areas. And so that's something else that we started that in maybe 2015. And so for a long time now, UAB has been addressing food insecurity, and we're very proud of the programs that we've initiated and to assist our students.
Thank you. With that, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Michael Mitchell, who is the Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students at the University of South Alabama. So Dr. Mitchell, if you could talk what are some of the kind of innovative ways that your campus has supported students with food insecurity?
Thank you, Sarah Grace, for the invitation to be here, and appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of our story. So the pantry story at the University of South Alabama actually has a real connection to the pantry work at UAB. And so our pantry actually started as a small closet in one of our student services buildings, but it was started by a student who had completed her undergraduate degree at UAB and had been accepted to medical school here at South Alabama. And one of the things that she wanted to do was to continue the work around food insecurity. So she started a student organization here at South Alabama while a medical student, and our pantry was born. And so since that time, we have grown and moved locations a couple of times on our campus, but we are currently located in our student services building, a nice space with plenty of shelving, a freezer, and other items that really help to make our pantry effective. But we did, like many of you, start our pantry in a very, very small way, but it has grown. So you're going to hear me talk a lot about partnerships, because our effort here is really a lot about partnerships. So our structure here is such that we don't have a full-time person dedicated to this work. So some of the things that we've been able to do with the coalition and also with our campus partners have really been beneficial to us at South Alabama. Some of the things that Debbie mentioned at UAB are also common programs here at South Alabama. Of course, we do have a pantry. That pantry has 24-hour access now through a partnership with our university police department. So when that building closes at 5 o'clock and when it closes on the weekend, our students can make a connection to the university police department, and they will meet them at that building and open the pantry so that they can have access to the building. And so that includes when the university is closed for Christmas break, when we may not be here for times during spring break and other breaks. The university police has partnered with us to make sure that students have 24-hour access to that pantry. We also have a meal donation program through our dining partner. We're an Aramark campus. Our program is called JAGS for Jags, so our mascot is the Jaguar. And students, about twice a year, our Student Government Association has partnered with us, and they set up a table in our cafeteria, and students who have a meal plan can sign up and donate one meal to this program. Throughout the year, students can work with my office, the Division of Student Affairs, to request a number of meals be put on their student ID card if they're experiencing food insecurity. And so that program has been very, very helpful to us. We've had folks who have wanted to be a part of this work and to do it in whatever way that they can. And so we had actually a mother and daughter start a emergency meal card program for us. They made a donation to our university development office, and that donation has allowed for us during break periods when the cafeteria closes and when food services closes on our campus. We realized that many of our students were struggling with food because they were relying on the cafeteria or relying on bonus bucks on their meal plan. And when everything closes, it created a problem. So this emergency food meal card program allows for us to give $50 Visa cards out to students during those break periods so that they can go to local stores and purchase food. So that's been a really great program for us. One of the things that we did find out in this work is that oftentimes, of course, food insecurity can also be connected to housing insecurity. And in this work, we discovered that many of our students were experiencing both. And so we partnered with our housing and residence life area to create an emergency housing program. And that program is a 30-day emergency housing option based on availability for students who are experiencing housing insecurity. And so rather than going from one friend's apartment to another friend's apartment or potentially sleeping in your car, this 30-day emergency housing program has allowed for students to have a space to make a plan, to decide what their next steps are, and to do that in an environment that is comfortable and that is safe and allows for them to continue their studies in a way that we hope is productive. And so through our partnership with our one-stop area, which is kind of our emergency all needs one-stop place for our students on our campus, they are also helping students understand and promote SNAP and that program and what benefits are available to them. We discovered that nobody on our campus before they started doing that was really talking about SNAP or really had information on SNAP. And so when they are seeing students in the pantry now, they are also providing information about SNAP and how students can apply for it and what we can do to help them apply for it. In addition to some of those programs that Debbie talked about, we also have a Saturday shuttle that we provide for our students, and we take them to 3 local stores. So we do Walmart, Publix, and the Piggly Wiggly. And we do that on Saturdays. And we've had a huge success with that program, the same way that Debbie at her campus has. You don't really realize that people are struggling with transportation until you offer them transportation. So we do that shuttle every Saturday during the fall and spring semesters, and it is used by not only our off-campus students, but our on-campus students, our international students. Been a very, very successful program. We were fortunate to have a gift made to our pantry because we had just been talking about our pantry and people were learning about our pantry. The USA Foundation, the University of South Alabama Foundation, made a $10,000 gift to the pantry through our development area. And so that gift over the years has been used to help our Student Government Association partner and make shopping trips for the pantry. So when certain items get low or the pantry has a big run on items and we don't have a big donation coming in, we can use that $10,000 gift from our foundation to help fill the pantry with items that we need to get from local stores. So that has been an amazing gift. We've been using that over the years and it has really gone a long way. The last thing that I'll say about kind of innovative things that we've done and discovered through our pantry is we added questions about food insecurity to our intake processes for our counseling and wellness center and our student health center. And that has allowed for us to find out a little bit more on students who may be experiencing food insecurity, but may not know about the pantry. So when they are participating in that intake process at both locations, they're answering some questions about food insecurity. And then if they do affirm that they are having some food and or housing insecurity issues, we're providing them those resources that they may not have had prior to making that visit to the counseling and wellness center.
Thanks, Dr. Mitchell. Sorry, my slides keep changing. Can you talk some about how the mini grant or sub-award that you got as part of the Hunger Free Higher Ed process supported students or made change on your campus?
Super, super. First of all, let me say that we were so grateful to be included in that program. And that grant, because we don't have full-time support of our pantry efforts here, that grant helped us to hire a graduate student that gave us 20 hours a week to be able to work on some things that we needed to do in our pantry, but that it was a little bit difficult to do from not having a full-time person on staff to do that. So that graduate assistant through the mini grant program helped us to do a couple of things. Most of them were related to technology. One of them was we created our Amazon wish list. We found that most folks want to do something to help with food insecurity on a college campus, but they don't know what to do. And we found that the Amazon wish list was very easy for folks to do because number one, everybody's on Amazon, but number two, they could get items for the pantry and then have those items delivered directly to the pantry through Amazon. So that's been really effective for us, but it's also been really effective for people who want to do something, people who want to help. And so our graduate assistant helped us with that. And our graduate assistant also helped us with inventory tracking and ordering for items that are in need of the pantry. So we needed somebody to do that on a day-to-day basis, and our graduate assistant really helped us to do that. And so inventory tracking, knowing what we need, getting those things on the Amazon wish list that we do need. Of course, if you've been in the pantry business for a long time, you've probably got plenty of green beans. You don't need any more green beans, but you do need things like personal care items. You do need things like frozen meals that students can heat up in their microwaves. And so our graduate assistant and that mini grant was critical for us in helping us to get some of those programs off the ground.
Thank you so much. Okay, I am gonna quickly kind of wrap up and then make sure we have time for some questions. So I do want to be really clear that one of my goals is to continually collect feedback on the process, on how our institutions feel like this is going, what they would like to see be different, what they feel like has gone well, so that we can improve what we're doing, so that we can make it fit each university in the way that it needs to. And then, as I mentioned, so one of the other programs I oversee is Presidents United to Solve Hunger, or what we just affectionately refer to as PUSH. So that is that presidential level commitment to ending hunger on your campus. I am confident that some of you on this call have already committed to that, or perhaps the president before you already committed to that. Maybe you don't even know that, but yeah, you can find a list of all of those institutions on our website. But if you have any questions about what that looks like, or you feel interested in doing that, or you are interested in getting your institution involved in hunger-free higher ed, either of those things, I would be so open to talking to you about. I would love to continue to expand the work that we're doing. As I mentioned, there are not costs associated with doing that. We simply want to do this to help our campuses and improve the services that we're offering to our students, because we know that right, food insecurity is directly related to student success, which means it is directly related to graduation, retention, and all of those lovely, wonderful things that we get asked about on a regular basis. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then we'll go through some of these. Well, maybe I'll stop sharing. Okay, and then we'll go through some of these questions. So someone asked, was this the cost for the year? And I think that maybe was a question for Debbie about the cost, yes, of the bus, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that was for the academic year, and then summer is additional monies.
And so someone else asked about leaving early, said they wanted to stay up to date. I can maybe email them about getting on our newsletter list. Yeah, there you go. They said our website. Anybody have other questions for us? Feel free to put those in the chat. We'd be happy to answer some of those.
You've got one in the Q&A if you want to hop over there.
Perfect. Yeah. Oh, such a good question. Okay, so the question in the Q&A is, we have a lot of students who love donating their swipes, but our dining provider does not like this program. Most dining vendors make their profit from unused swipes. How have others navigated this challenge? We allow up to 1,000 swipes donated that we distribute. Have others had to set limits like this? So I can tell you, so the Hunger Solutions Institute is located at Auburn University. So I, in my role, don't directly oversee our food pantry, but I used to. So I can tell you kind of some of that at our campus. So same, our dining provider was not a fan of the meal swipe donation. If you're not familiar, you can look up Swipe Out Hunger is like a big national organization that focuses on getting college students to donate their unused meal swipes for other students with food insecurity. So Auburn University doesn't participate in a meal swipe donation, but we were able to work in with our dining provider to do like a meal scholarship that they cover the cost of a couple meal scholarships every year, and that they give us, then we are able to like purchase more meal scholarships at their cost. So we're not like paying additional money for that, which has been really nice. So that was something that we worked out as sort of like a workaround with them. I will also say that the leftover money from students not using all of their meal swipes, Auburn has a program that has both declining balance, so like a debit card and meal swipes, which I think most campuses are kind of doing some kind of, combination now. That money left over, I think from the declining balance, was what was used to renovate our campus food pantry. So our dining services has been really like a big proponent. So I think there are still ways to work with your dining services, even if they're not willing to do the meal swipe program.
Well, and I will share that on my campus, one of the things that really helped us to have the program JAGS for JAGS is that we moved to a model with our provider that now that our students who have meal plans, they actually don't count swipes anymore. So they have unlimited access to the cafeteria, what we call it our fresh food company. And so when we collect that one meal, it's really kind of, they don't really have meal counts anymore. So it is just them saying, hey, I'd like to have one of my meals donated to this program. And so I think that has really helped us really support the meal swipe program, because now that our students have unlimited access, they can go as many times that they want to in any given day without having to worry about swipes. I think that's really helped our program be successful and also amenable to our dining partner.
And I will just add that our dining provider has always been very supportive. And so I guess we were lucky in that aspect. And so we've always had, maybe since 2015 or so, some sort of what we now call swipe twice. And it's very successful. And once again, those meal swipes then turn into a voucher, or you put more meals on their card, and that is associated with our office. And so we're managing that. And so our dining provider is a great partner with us.
Okay, our next question is, how are you tracking outcomes, not inputs and outputs around student success? They said, we have a difficult time tracking student outcomes longitudinally and considering all of the other factors that go into student success. Do either one of you want to answer?
I'll probably say that we're probably in that very same boat, trying to increase the technology that we use so that we know which students are actually using the pantry and a little bit about their profiles. And so there's I think, a fine line to walk there, because you want to decrease stigma around the pantry use. And sometimes when you start collecting that information on students, they feel like, oh, they're going to know that I've been to the pantry, or they're going to know how many times I've been to the pantry, and that somebody's going to judge them for that. So we're in the same process, I think, here at South Alabama, of trying to figure out how we can really get our hands and minds around not only what is in the pantry, but who is using the pantry, and a little bit of an idea around what their profiles look like, but also what their academic success looks like, and completion rate it looks like, based on their use of the pantry and other food insecurity and housing insecurity resources.
At UAB, we collect data on everyone everywhere. So it could be an oversaturation, but for Blazer Kitchen especially, I know that our location, we collect information on demographic information, how many times they're shopping. But remember, for us, it really works, and we have really worked very hard to minimize that stigma, if you will, because our location is in our office, and that is what we do. Is we outreach to students who are struggling in some way. And so and I am in Blazer Kitchen, our area, all of the time. And so we know the students who come and shop with us, and we're having open and honest conversations about what their needs are. And so I think we're through that trust and through that welcoming environment, and there's no judgment, and we're helping students shop, and we're helping them identify ingredients and items, and so that is something that we have really worked hard on, is making sure that our students, or the majority of our students, feel very comfortable in the area. And so when we ask them we survey them once a semester to improve our services. And so far, we haven't gotten any negative feedback from our students. And so but we need to continue to make sure that everyone feels welcome in our area. And I know that the main Blazer Kitchen does as well. And that's something that we're very cognizant of.
I think as much data as you can collect about who is using your pantry. I know a lot of pantries want to operate around like some anonymity and provide privacy to students, which I think is a great goal. I do think, like Debbie said, I used to know all the students who came into the pantry, and they knew me. And so when I would collect data, I was always like, but remember, this is so that I can say, hey, I noticed recently that, like 30% of our users are from the College of Agriculture. What's going on there? Have you raised your student fees for that college? Or are they all, graduate students, and maybe they can't, some of our programs have requirements that you're not allowed to work outside of your graduate assistantship. And so then maybe you're really struggling with the amount of money that you're making, things of that nature. Then I'm able to provide that data and advocate on your behalf. And students seemed really receptive to that, I think, especially because they know you and they feel comfortable with you, and understand, that you want to do more for them and do as much as you can. So I think using some kind of software that would allow you to collect that data, and then getting with, if you don't have access to that data, like student success data, like persistence, GPA, all those things, doing some type of comparison, I think would be really helpful. We would work with our assessment office to do some of that, to be able to show, here's what our students who are using the food pantry are saying, and also here's how they're doing in their classes, because they're able to have access to these supports. Any other questions?
Can I ask one?
Yeah.
As the host's prerogative, I'm wondering, I think people can list some of the key partners that they would go to, both on campus and in the community. I'm curious if you might share, like, probably the most surprising or innovative partner. You've talked a lot of them, but the most surprising or innovative partner that people wouldn't normally think of. Somebody who showed up and surprised you with their investment, both on campus and off campus. And similarly, maybe you talked about graduate students, maybe who's a population that gets overlooked in this. So I'm hoping you can come up with some of the surprises that you learned along the way and share those with us in terms of partners, and then also a surprising population that showed up in terms of their need.
I'll share one. So during the pandemic, of course, the need for pantries as students were losing their jobs because restaurants were closing, and every place that they worked was closing. One of the surprise partners that popped up for us was actually a local synagogue. They made a huge donation to our pantry, but we had not had any conversation with them prior to that donation, and really did not know where they were or that they were around. But they kind of just came to the need of students. It was a huge surprise, but they ended up bringing a passenger van full of supplies for our pantry, and it was really during the pandemic, it was a pleasant surprise.
One of our partners that was surprising, perhaps, when we first started the Blazer Market route, one of the international grocery stores was not on that route, and they outreached to me personally and said, we want to be on this route because international students, or any student, is very important to us. And so, because of their passionate argument for them to be along the route, we added them. But not only that, they decided, well, we're also going to donate to Blazer Kitchen. And so they donate international cuisine once a semester, and it's items that I would never have selected. And so that partnership is very crucial, and we're very appreciative. So that was a surprise. That was a pleasant surprise, that partnership.
At Auburn specifically, I will say about like over 80% of our students using our food pantry are graduate students. That is a big population of our food insecure students. And so on that, our graduate school has been one of our best partners. Interestingly enough, one of our other biggest advocates has been an associate dean in our College of Architecture. He started coming to these meetings. We tried to invite a representative from each college, and he was like, I don't think we're paying our graduate students enough. And he was like, or maybe we're not being clear about how their paychecks work, especially if they're coming in as an international student and maybe don't understand the taxes that are going to be taken out, and that they'll have to pay student insurance, et cetera, et cetera. And he was like, I think we need to be more clear about this. I think we need to have standard guidelines that we put in every award letter. And he has truly advocated for that across our campus and been such a great partner in that, which is just not something that I expected. But I think coming to these meetings really opened his eyes, and he was like, this is something that I can take responsibility for and really champion on our campus. So that has been nice to see too. guess we only have a minute left, so I will just say thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to APLU and USU for allowing us to join you today and share this information. We are really appreciative for this audience and just for those of you interested in talking about this more. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. I want to thank Sarah Grace and Debbie and Michael for sharing their great work. I took so many notes myself, and I'm sure the participants did as well. This is a critical problem that's growing, and we are grateful to the work that you're doing and the models you've given us. I also want to tell our participants that this has been recorded and will be housed on the Coalition of Urban Serving Universities YouTube channel, so you can revisit it as well as other past webinars. And we're very grateful for everybody participating and spending your time with us today. So I say thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your week.